There was once a man named Wang who lived in the ancient walled city of Taiwan. He was a wealthy scholar, but his heart was restless and easily swayed. One morning, while walking past a desolate, misty field on the edge of town, he crossed paths with a young woman. She was traveling alone, clutching a small bundle to her chest. Wang stopped in his tracks. She was impossibly beautiful. Her skin looked like polished jade beneath the morning sun, and her eyes held a soft, deep sadness. She was weeping. Wang approached her and asked why she was alone on such dangerous road. In a voice that sounded like silver bells, she whispered that she was a runaway concubine, fleeing an abusive master who treated her like property. Wang's heart burned with a sudden, overwhelming infatuation. He did not care about the danger. He did not care about his own wife waiting at home. He told the beautiful stranger he would hide her. He brought her to his estate by secret path and locked her inside his private library, a remote guest house at the furthest corner of his garden. For days, the woman remained hidden in the library. Wang spent every evening with her, completely intoxicated by her presence. They drank sweet wine, spoke of poetry, and shared long quiet nights. But a house cannot hold a secret forever. Wang's wife Chen noticed that her husband was changing. He was growing pale, his eyes were bloodshot and sunken, and he looked like a man whose blood was being drained. When she questioned him, Wang flew into a rage, telling her to mind her own business. One afternoon, while walking through the crowded city market, a passing Taoist monk stopped dead in his tracks. The monk stared at Wang, his eyes widening in absolute horror. He grabbed Wang by the sleeve. Sir, the monk whispered, his voice trembling. What have you brought into your home? Wang frowned, pulling, pulling his arm away. Nothing. Why do you ask? The monk stepped closer, the smell of incense heavy around him. You are enveloped in a dark, thick aura. The black scent of death is wrapped tightly around your throat. Your face is the color of a corpse. Go home, sir. Look closely at the one you love. You are sleeping next to a monster. Wang mocked the monk, calling him a fraud who only wanted to scare him for money. He turned his back on the holy man and walked home. But as the sun began to set, casting long bloody shadows across his courtyard, the monk's words began to gnaw at his mind. When Wang returned to his estate, he found the garden unnaturally quiet. The servants were missing. The air felt heavy, damp, and cold. Driven by a sudden freezing dread, he crept down the stone path towards the isolated library. The doors were bolted from the inside. The windows, made of thick oiled paper, were completely dark. He approached the window screen. He did not knock. He did not call her name. Instead, he heard a sound coming from inside the room. It was not the sound of breathing. It was rhythmic, faint, scraping sound, like cloth being dragged over a cold stone floor. Wang wet his fingertip with saliva and gently pressed it against the fragile paper screen, melting a single tiny peephole. He leaned in. He pressed his eyes against the darkness. The room inside was lit by a single dying candle. There was no beautiful woman. Sitting on the floor was a hideous green faced demon. Its eyes were like burning coals, and its mouth was jagged with razor sharp fangs. Stretched out on the wooden desk before the beast was a complete human skin. The face, the hair, the limbs of the beautiful girl Wang had brought home. It lay there like hollow, deflated coat. Wang watched, paralyzed by terror as the demon picked up a fine paintbrush. With sickening care, the monster touched up the red paint on the skin lips. It smoothed out the eyebrows. When it was finished, the demon put on the brush. It picked up the hollow skin, shook it out with a sharp crack, and threw it over its monstrous green body. In blink of an eye, the demon vanished. Standing in its place was the radiant, flawless woman. She smiled gently at her reflection, turning toward the window, stared directly at the tiny hole where Wang's eye was hidden. Wang stumbled backward into the dirt, his mind fracturing with horror. He ran out of the garden, sprinting through the dark streets until he found the temple where the Taoist monk was staying. He fell to his knees begging for help. The monk sighed, looking at Wang with deep pity. The demon is ancient, the monk said, handing Wang a small wooden fly whisk, a sacred tool of protection. Take this, hang it over the door of your bedroom. It will buy you time while I prepare to banish the beast. Wang clutched the wooden whisk like a lifeline. He ran back to his house, told his wife everything, and hung the protective charm directly over their bedroom door. They locked themselves inside, staring at the wood in the absolute silence of the night. At midnight, a cold wind howled through the courtyard. They heard footsteps, soft, light footsteps, approaching the door. Then a sudden horrific shriek tore through the silence. The demon had reached the door, but the scared, sacred charm burned its fingers. You think a piece of wood can keep me from my food? A voice hissed from the dark corridor. It did not sound like silver bells anymore. It sounded like grinding stones. There was a violent smash. The wooden charms shattered into splinters. The door flew open. Before Wang could even scream, the beautiful skin ripped open at chest. The green demon burst through. Its claws flashing in the dark, it plunged its hand directly into Wang's chest, tearing his heart completely out of his body. The demon swallowed the heart whole, laughed a hollow, echoing laugh, and melted into the night shadows, leaving the hollow, beautiful skin crumbled on the bloody floor next to Wang's lifeless corpse. The next morning, the Taoist monk arrived, but he was too late. He found Chen weeping over her husband's hollow body. The monk's eyes burned with righteous fury. He tracked the demon's lingering scent through the city, finding it disguised as a servant girl in a wealthy household nearby. With a single strike of his wooden staff, the monk shattered the illusion. The beautiful skin fell away, and the green demon was was revealed. The monk raised his hand, chanting an ancient spell, and the demon dissolved into a puddle of foul water. But Wang was still dead. His wife Chen begged the monk to bring him back, weeping so hard her tears turned to blood. The monk the monk looked down at her. There is an old mad beggar who sits in the town square. He possesses the power of life and death, but he will humiliate you. If you truly love your husband enough to endure absolute shame, go to him. Gom Chen ran to the market, found the beggar. He was filthy, covered in sores, and completely mad. When she begged for her husband's life, the beggar laughed and spat directly into her face. He forced her to crawl in the dirt and endure the mockery of the crowd. Yet, out of pure devotion to her foolish husband, she endured it all. Finally, the beggar forced her to swallow a full glowing pill of medicine. She choked it down, and with the beggar vanished into thin air. Heartbroken, Jane returned to her house to clean her husband's body. As she bent over, Wang's open chest warmed. A sudden violent spasm shook her throat. She coughed, and out of her mouth fell a fresh beating human heart. It dropped directly into Wang's empty chest cavity. Slowly the wound closed. The color returned to its skin. Wang opened his life, breathing his first breath of life, completely cured of his blindness. From that day on, the beautiful skin was burned to ash, and Wang never looked at a beautiful stranger the same way again, for he knew that beneath the most perfect face, a monster could be hiding, waiting to consume your very soul.